Hi, I'm Stu, and welcome back to another LumaFusion video tutorial. This is the third part in my Videoscope series, and in this tutorial we're going to look at the histograms. So let's tap on a clip, tap our little pencil icon, and you can now see we've got the histogram here on the left hand side. If you've used a digital camera in the last 22 years, you'll be familiar with what a histogram actually looks like. But let's break it down from a Videoscope's point of view. So if we tap on our little arrow, we're obviously on histogram, and we've got red, green, blue and the Luma channels opened up, giving you this nice colourful graph. You really don't need to see the red, green and the blue, because obviously we've got our waveforms and colour wheels. So let's just break it down to the Luma. So what I tend to do is switch off the red, green and blue, and that leaves us to concentrate on the Luma, or brightness. So how do you read a histogram? Well, it's made up of two axes, the x-axis from 0 to 255 and then the y-axis, which is the amount of pixels that are within a specific zone. Starting from the left hand side, you can divide the histogram x-axis into three different zones. On the left you'll see we have the shadow zone, which starts from effectively pure black and then gradually gets lighter but still concentrating on all those shadow details. The next zone you'll see is the mid-tones area. Now 90% of the time you're kind of wanting most of your pixels to be in the mid-tones, and the only times that it won't happen is you've either underexposed or overexposed the image deliberately in the likes of a low key or a high key shot, or you've just screwed up the exposure. So generally speaking, a kind of Mount Everest style set of pixels and graph leaning towards the middle of the three different zones is kind of normal for a histogram, although it doesn't necessarily mean that's what you want, but it kind of ends up being that way for the most part. The final zone leads from the midtones into the highlights, and this of course is the brightest parts of your image. Now unless you're doing something that's high key, bright and airy, you kind of don't want to have too many pixels tucked in here. You want to keep as many towards the midtones as possible to retain a good exposure, but there are times when you've just got to let it fly and you're going to end up with quite a lot of pixels in the highlights. Just watch how many you've got, how far up the graph they go, and whether or not they're completely over to the right. Obviously anything that's high up and completely over to the right hand side is going to be clipped and cause you problems in terms of detail. Let me show you some more advanced ways of setting up histogram views within your Videoscopes. So we've obviously got the histogram here on the left hand side, then we've got our waveform and we've got our vector scope. But we can change things up a little bit by tapping on the little arrow on the waveform, choosing histogram, and in this case we'll go for green and Luma, and you've got that. We can go back to our original histogram and we could choose red and Luma, and then where the vector scope is at the moment we can also switch to histogram and choose blue and Luma. Then that way you've got a breakdown of your red, green and blue as well as your Luma brightness points throughout the different histograms. But we can go further than that, because if you tap and hold your little Videoscope's icon here on the top left, you can change views. So for example, we could have a dual histogram, or you could change this histogram back to the likes of the vector scope and work with a histogram and a vector scope, or we can go for a wider histogram, or we can shrink it down and go for a wider vector scope, or we can place the histogram top and the vector scope bottom. This one in the iPhone configuration I don't find to be as useful, but the last one is very useful, and that's the histogram going right the way across a single panel, allowing you to take more time and be able to view the image of the video above. Again, you can go in and either add your colours back in and see what's going on there, stretch it out, or you can just remove the colours, the different channels, and work purely on the Luma brightness of the video itself. Okay, so I've got an original panel all set up to go, and let's grade this video clip that I've been running in the background for the whole of the tutorial. And as you can see, we've got quite a reasonable histogram going on here Obviously a lot of shadow information, everything else is spreading out to the midtones, and then for the brightest points of the video clip we've got a little highlight there, which we're not going to worry about too much. So what I would tend to do is, like the shadows, I would, rather than going this way and brightening them up, I would actually take it the other way and crush them down a little bit. And when you move the slider across, you'll see it's a lot less brutal than it would be working directly with the contrast, which if I crank up this way, you'll see it absolutely crushes the heck out of the shadows. So if you're going to use contrast, use it very, very sparingly. And then we're going to look at colours. Well, we want to make it more red, a bit more fiery, so we'll add a chunk of red in. Again, if you want to check your reds, you can call them up as well and see what they're doing. We've got a kind of comb effect going on here. I'm not going to do anything with the greens, and then we'll add a wee bit more yellow, and that's kind of where we're at with it. I don't think we need to shift the hue or anything, no kind of effects are needed done, but then we can switch off. There's before and there's after. You can see how we've crushed the blacks down and shifted everything over to the left for this particular image, for this particular video clip. In my final example, I've got a video clip of a young lady, a close up. So we're going to go in again, tap on originals, make sure everything's squared away. And this allows me to then play with so the contrast again, bring it up a little bit. Again, just watching those details. Now this time I'm going to switch off the red channel and just concentrate on the Luma. You can see I'm just playing with the brightness a little bit, and that's getting some of the shadow information away from the left hand side. And do we need to increase a little bit of vibrance? And then when it comes to colour, you can either choose to add a bit of red or yellow. In some cases a little bit of magenta doesn't go amiss either, but very, very small amounts. Another thing you can play about with is the gamma. You can move the whole histogram about, but in this instance I don't think we need to bother. In fact, you can see from all of the video scopes, whether it be the waveform, the vector scope, or the histogram, it gives you all the detailed information you really need to fine-tune these controls here, which in my view, up until when the video scopes came out, I tended to find that I was using them heavy-handedly and they needed to be applied a little bit more subtly. They're just a little bit too easy to quickly whack into the reds or the blues, cyans, that kind of thing, and you don't want to be doing that. So there we go. That's the video tutorial for today. That's the end of this 3-part series. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, and drop a like on this video if you have found it useful for your work. And I will catch you on the next one. See you later.